A moment of relief for Theresa May. The British Prime Minister has delivered against the odds. After nearly 2 years of negotiations, May and the EU have agreed on the terms of their divorce. She took the opportunity to remind critics of her conviction.
Tell us what's really going on.
There were those who said that reaching a Brexit agreement that worked for both sides was an impossible task. From the start, I rejected that counsel of despair and set about negotiating a deal that worked for the UK and the EU, one that delivered on the result of the referendum and set us on course for a prosperous future, while maintaining a close relationship with our friends and neighbours.
But her victory could be short-lived. May must now sell the plan to a divided British Parliament. So far, she doesn't have a majority to pass it, and some MPs from her own party have vowed to vote against it. The European Union has warned rebellious lawmakers in Westminster that there is no other alternative.
I'm inviting those who have to ratify this deal in the House of Commons to take this in consideration. This is the best deal possible for Britain. This is the best deal possible for Europe. This is the only deal possible. The only deal possible.
May now faces a make-or-break vote that will again test her resilience. She will tour the UK in a charm offensive aimed at getting support for her deal with Brussels.
The British people don't want to spend any more time arguing about Brexit. They want a good deal done that fulfills the vote and allows us to come together again as a country. So I will take this deal back to the House of Commons, confident we have achieved the best deal available and full of optimism about the future of our country. In Parliament and beyond it, I will make the case for this deal with all my heart, and I look forward to that campaign.
Today, the European Council endorsed the agreement on the withdrawal of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland from the European Union and the European Atomic Energy Community. On this basis, the European Council invited the Commission, the European Parliament and the Council to take the necessary steps to ensure that the agreement can enter into force on the 30th of March 2019, so as to provide for an orderly withdrawal.
I think a diplomatic work of art has been accomplished in an extremely difficult situation, an unprecedented situation, something we have never had to face until now, a country leaving the European Union, having to create a contractual exit agreement, taking into account the different interests, but also, at the same time, looking towards the future. A future that allows a close partnership, which will likely mean tough negotiations, but also a future where we always wish each other success. And our agreement was the only way that this was possible.
Let me now draw in DW's correspondent Barbara Vasil in London. Barbara, given the opposition Theresa May faces in getting a Brexit deal through Parliament, does she have reason to be optimistic about the outcome?
Not really, not as we stand here now, because she is really surrounded by opponents. When she was in Brussels, she tried to convey a sense of optimism in the sense that let's move on, people. We've had this discussion now, and we shall open a new chapter, and we shall look to the future in a sense of optimism and expectation. But if you look at social media here, people get quite angry about that, telling the Prime Minister, now this is the most important decision for Britain within a couple of generations. You can't tell us just to sort of wipe this off the table, move on, accept what's there, and then just carry on with our lives, particularly as economists are now predicting that people in Britain might be poorer, even after the Brexit deal that has been put on the table by Brussels. So she is having an uphill struggle all the way.
The EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker insists there will be no renegotiations on the Brexit deal, saying, as we heard in our report, this is the only deal possible. So are Britons really facing the choice between this deal or no deal?
As far as Brussels is concerned, Rita, yes. However, do the politicians in London who are not in favour of it want to listen? The answer is a clear no. Even Conservative MPs have this morning been doing the rounds of radio studios here in London and talking to everybody and saying, now listen, we want something else. We don't like this. We want something more like Norway. There must be other options. We could remain in the single market. We could do this or the other. So for them, the chapter doesn't seem to be closed. They simply don't want to accept this deal, whatever Brussels says. So for Theresa May, this is difficult. What she is going to do, she is really under time constraint because she needs to talk to Parliament this afternoon and answer urgent questions. It will be the same as we have seen in the past. Then she needs to go to Argentina and participate in the G20 summit. And after that, it just leaves her a week to make a tour of Great Britain, to go to Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, where people are particularly angry about the deal for different reasons, and try to convince them. So in the end, what we see here, that in Britain, the battle for Brexit is far from over and further turbulence is ahead.
Barbara Wiesel in London, thank you very much for that analysis.